recently someone requested a video that could help them decide what kinds of products they should make to sell in an Etsy shop. A lot of the stories we hear about Etsy shops and their owners start with a maker who has always loved making something specific and opened a shop to share that passion with the world. But what about the creative people who love making things but have never tried designing their own products? Or who make so many kinds of things they just don't know where to start? This video is meant to be a sort of interactive worksheet with some questions and different topics worth considering if you've been wanting to open an Etsy shop and you're trying to decide what to sell there. This can also be helpful if you already make handmade items to sell, but you want to diversify your product line and add something new. Remember to give this video a thumbs up if you like this kind of content. It'll help me to decide what sorts of videos to make in the future. Here are some of the things I think about when I'm coming up with ideas for new products to sell in my Etsy shop. A really good place to start is, what are your favorite mediums to work in? Do you like to paint or work in visual design? Do you sew, crochet, knit, embroider? Do you like to work in wood or metal? Or if you're like me and you like working in so many different kinds of mediums that you can't possibly decide between them, what are some things that can pull your favorites together? What is a common thread between them? Is this something that you already know how to do, or is this something you've been wanting to try for a long time and you want to learn how to do it and you just want to dive in right away with something that you've never tried before? I find that this is a really good place to start if you are a maker who's considering opening an Etsy shop, because you have to think a lot about what you want to spend your time doing. It's possible that if your shop is really successful, you could be doing a lot of this for a while. And so you have to kind of think about what you really like to do. What do you enjoy making? What do you get excited about? And obviously within every different medium, there are a lot of different kinds of products that you can make. So I find that it's a really good place to start to think about the actual process and what you actually enjoy doing and would want to do more of if things go well. Another thing that I like to think about is just in general, what kinds of products resonate with you? For example, I chose plush toys as my main product line that I started my Etsy shop in order to sell. As a kid, I spent a lot of my money on stuffed animals, and as I grew older, I didn't really grow out of that. I realized at some point that I should probably just figure out how to make them myself, and I can really appreciate a well-designed handmade plush toy, so it was pretty easy for me to go in that direction, just because I've always known that this is something that I love. But I've also always had this fascination with handbags and purses and luggage and backpacks and things like that. Whenever I'm in a store that has some really cool ones with lots of interesting pockets, I find myself looking at all of them. I'm the kind of person that would see a cute purse in a store and open it up and see that there are no pockets and just be completely flabbergasted and upset. Or I go to pick it up and the handles are just handheld. They're not long enough for me to put over my shoulder, and I think, oh man, if I were designing this purse, I would have done this differently. And so I also considered making handbags and luggage and things like that. I don't know if all people get as excited about things like that as I do, but for me, I wanted to go with something that I was really excited about. So that is definitely a good inclination to follow. If it's something that you've really loved and been interested in for a long time, you're more likely to have longevity with your Etsy shop. Another important thing to think about is what's already out there and how can you make yours different. Etsy in particular is a very crowded marketplace, and if you're going to be selling at craft fairs, you want somebody to actually come and look at your booth and not just say, oh, it's another one of those booths, and not even pay any attention to it. And even if you're making something that there's a lot of out there, there is always a way to do it your way in a way that no one else could. For example, there is so much jewelry out there, especially on Etsy, but I still find that I can't always find what I'm picturing and what I'm looking for when I go to shop for jewelry on Etsy. I feel like a lot of people have an inclination to follow trends, so they see something that's really popular and they want to make it on Etsy to kind of capitalize on that popularity. But copying something that someone else has done can get you in some trouble and also not feel so great, or hurting the feelings of the person who originally designed the thing that you are copying. It's also worth considering that trends eventually end, and what is your shop going to be when nobody wants this one specific kind of trendy thing anymore? If you pick something that you've always loved regardless of the trends that are currently popular on Etsy and elsewhere, then you're more likely to have continued success after nobody cares about those specific trends anymore. Worth mentioning that I sometimes wonder if I paid more attention to trends, if I would get more attention. So I think you just have to go with your gut on that one. Another really important thing to think about is, who is your ideal customer? Who are you making this for? And then think about the implications of designing a product for that particular group. For example, if you want to make products that will be used by children, you have to think about the fact that children cannot buy things online. So your items also have to appeal and make sense for the parents of those young kids, for their grandparents, for the people who are going to be buying them gifts. If you want to make products that appeal to teenagers and young adults, you have to think about the fact that maybe these kids are going to college and paying off student loans, and you may not want to create something that's super expensive if you're gearing it towards that age group. There is all sorts of important information in there when you think about who your ideal customer is and who you are appealing to. And when you're designing your products and your branding and writing your copy about these products, that information is really important. You also might want to think about whether the kind of product you're thinking of making is cost effective for you and for your ideal customer. A lot of handmade items are really expensive to make, whether they're made from expensive materials or they take a really long time to make. You want to make sure that you can afford to make them, first of all, and also that you can charge an amount of money that will allow you to cover all of your materials and your time and a profit in addition to that, so you can keep growing your business. And if you think that the kind of person who would buy that item can afford that cost, go for it. You're in good shape. But if you are making some super cool and trendy hand knit items that are meant to be worn by college students, you might want to think about the fact that if it takes 75 hours for you to knit one piece, that maybe that college student might not be able to afford what you need to charge to make all of that money back. Other things worth considering, because this is a product that you're eventually hoping to sell, is whether you're going to sell one-of-a-kind items or you're going to keep an inventory of many of the same item. If you want to sell original paintings, that would be better to sell as a one-of-a-kind item because it would be really difficult to duplicate that and sell multiples of them. But you can consider selling the painting as a one-of-a-kind item and then having it scanned and printed so that you can sell prints and keep an inventory of those prints and sell them for less money. And also think about whether or not you want to have your items in stock and then list them on the Etsy shop, or do you want people to be able to customize the items and you can make them to order afterwards. This is a decision that I struggled with for a long time because I often sell out of items, so a lot of people ask me if they can pre-order something and I can make it to order once they pay for it. The first time that I did this, I got really far behind and I did not like the stress of it hanging over my head that I had all these items and orders I needed to complete. So I decided to stop taking orders for items that I had not made yet and only take orders once I'd physically made the items to sell. What kind of product it is going to likely affect which of those you choose. People really love customizable products on Etsy, but you have to make sure that you're able to handle that workload. And when an order comes in for something, you have to be able to dedicate the time to making that and sending it out. You do get to choose your turnaround time. So if you need a couple weeks to make something, you can put that on the listing and people will know that it's going to be a while before you have a chance to make it. I'm always so impressed with Etsy shops that do made to order items within a week. I can't handle that kind of stress. So think about these things when you're deciding what to make for your Etsy shop. Some other things that you might not be thinking of right now, but eventually will become really important are whether or not you want your business to be scalable. It's relatively easy to make a few items and put them up on Etsy and see what happens. That's a really good place to start. But if it turns out that your store is really successful and before you know it, you can't keep items in your store anymore, they're just being purchased faster than you can make them, you may find yourself wishing that you had considered this earlier in the process. So you may want to think about whether this kind of item would have to be totally handmade by you, or whether or not you can eventually get a production partner to help you manufacture some of the items. Is this the kind of thing that you yourself would have to make, or would you be able to hire someone to help you make them? And you totally get to decide these things, even though you know that it takes you a long time to make an item and it may sell faster than you can physically make them. That's okay. I've seen plenty of artists make a whole bunch of stuff, schedule a day when they're going to go live on their store, give them people advance notice and post them all at once, and then they all sell out within an hour. People are just waiting in line ready for them when they go online, and then they have an empty shop the rest of the time. It's kind of amazing. It's happened a couple times for me where I could do it that way, and eventually I kind of caught up. But if you want this business to grow, you might want to choose the kinds of products that you would be able to get some help with in the future. There are a lot of artists and illustrators on Etsy who make really cool products that they have printed with their art on them, and so they just are able to make hundreds of them at a time if necessary. And the last thing that I want you to think about, just because I'm me and I'm a nerd about branding in general, what do you want your products to accomplish, and how can you show that with your shop branding? How do you want your products to make your customers feel? Do you want them to buy your jewelry so they feel like they're trendy and cool and cutting edge? Maybe you make bath products and you want your customers to feel relaxed, take a load off. Maybe you're trying to appeal to young mothers who are not taking any time for themselves, and you want to encourage them to buy your products and make a night of it. So all of these things that we're talking about can not only be reflected in your products, but also in your shop name and your branding and the copy that you write for each individual listing. You want to give potential customers a clear picture of what they'd be getting if they purchase something from your shop. I get so excited about this kind of stuff, and when I see an Etsy shop that's doing all of this really well, I love it. Keep in mind that you don't have to make only one kind of product, and you also don't even have to stick with your original vision for your shop if it isn't working for whatever reason. When you're first starting out, consider that if you're not 100% on what to make, come up with a brand for your shop that would allow you to grow and change and make different kinds of things over time. I have an Etsy shop called Fairweather Friends where I sell handmade plush toys and other products that all feature cute animal characters that I design. I am currently in the process of designing some new kinds of products that I am so excited to test out. So this is the kind of thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately. Anyway, I hope that was helpful to you. I have a bunch of other videos about starting and running Etsy shops, so if this is the kind of thing that you find interesting, I will link to a playlist in the video description below. And if you're new here, I would love if you would subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. Thanks for watching, good luck with your Etsy shop, and I'll see you soon.